AJ McKee recovered from the disappointment of losing his Bellator featherweight world title earlier this year to take a unanimous decision win over Spike Carlyle earlier this month, but revealed after the fight that there are things to learn from when it comes to cutting weight. Today, we are discussing the new lightweight's words and talking about what might be next for him following his successful move to a heavier division. Stay with us. Let's get started into it then. What did AJ have to say? McKee recently appeared on Ariel Helwani's The MMA Hour to discuss his successful move to lightweight earlier this month. Mercenary decided to move up after Patricio Pitbull managed to wrestle the title back from him after losing it via submission back in the summer of 2021. However, his move to 155 pounds wasn't without its problems, as his opponent gave a decent account of himself. But McKee revealed that he felt good in there at a heavier weight. He did admit that he could have made things a little easier on himself in the build-up, but suggested that his body simply needs time to adapt to lightweight and the power that comes along with it. He continued, "I felt that there were a couple of little things in that fight, like cardio-wise. The output was just insane, so I can't really. It was kind of a lot. But there were a couple of little things I needed to make adjustments to." By adjustments, he means weight cut. He conceded to not doing it properly, but did add that after each fight, he usually learns something different about himself, saying, "I was just really taking in those couple of little key things." McKee then discussed what the problem was with the weight cut, suggesting that it was most likely down to his diet. It's not often fighters struggle to make weight when moving up, unless you're Johnny Hendricks, for example. What do you make of AJ's words? What else did he have to say for himself then? Stick around to find out. You're probably aware that McKee walks around at close to 180 pounds, which of course is closer to a middleweight than anything else, and it was estimated that as he stepped into the cage against Carlyle, he was somewhere around 175 pounds. Assessing his slight problem, shaking nearly 25 pounds, he explained, "It's just that dieting's key for mixed martial arts," before revealing that he was just struggling with the last couple of pounds. Of course, if he can make 145, he should have no issues making 155, but it's not always as easy as it sounds. He added, "So with that being said, you've just got to make sure everything is right and dialed in." This was just kind of more like a freelance weight cut. He then showed Helwani why it might have been difficult to shed the weight, pulling open a freezer door to reveal a ton of steaks. He explained that after he made the decision to move up, he knew he had to pile on the weight, saying he has also added a lot of protein to his diet. AJ also suggested his time at featherweight isn't completely over, as he has his eyes set on a trilogy fight with Patricio. However, he said he will continue to pile on the weight, so he needs to know in advance if Bellator wants to book that particular fight again, because he is sitting at 180 today. Do you see him fighting Patricio again? So what's up next for the former featherweight champ? AJ tasted defeat for the first time in his career earlier this year against Patricio Pitbull, and it's safe to say he didn't like it. And having recently moved up to bag his first win at his new weight of 155 pounds, attention soon turned to what could be in store next time out for McKee. He didn't have it all his own way against the durable Carlyle, who made things difficult for McKee early on. However, he managed to assert himself in the second half of the fight as his opponent gassed himself out after an explosive start. That said, he might not have things all his own way in the heavier weight class, but he did seem to be rejuvenated and got back to basics with the win over Carlyle. So what's next? Well, the trilogy with Pitbull is always an option, but we know he has his eyes set on Aaron Pico at 135, but he's currently injured, so the trilogy fight could make sense. There's also the small matter of the Bellator lightweight Grand Prix next year, which McKee could choose to focus on. I mean, what better way to exact revenge on Pitbull than to take his brother's lightweight crown? Scott Coker announced the tournament last week, and we're sure AJ would get a spot if he wanted one. He has also been talking a lot about Nate Diaz recently, but we doubt Bellator would go down that route. What do you guys think? McKee and Aaron Pico have recently spoken out on how they'll never fight next, Stay with us. With reports that Patricio Pitbull was angling for a fight against Bellator featherweight Aaron Pico, AJ McKee set his sights against other fighters in the lightweight division. However, two of the most popular, not to mention talented, men on the roster will almost certainly never cross paths in the octagon if they have any say in the matter. The pair took part in an interview for TMZ at the end of September, ahead of their respective fights on the Bellator 286 card, which didn't turn out well for Pico as he suffered a pretty nasty shoulder injury, where the fellas discussed the possibility of ever coming up against each other, to which the answer was a resounding no, at least for now. When asked, Pico quickly explained, "No, we wouldn't do it. We've talked about this before, and we said this. Listen, if it ever comes down to that, it's gonna be years and years from now. Those zeros better add up." Of course, the last sentence insinuates that they could throw down if the price was right, and Pico continued by suggesting the only way they would do it is if they hadn't made enough money by then. McKee then took over by explaining the pair are pretty much brothers, to which Aaron chimed in saying, "It goes deeper than that," then adding, "So barring a huge check, it ain't happening." Interesting. What do you guys think? News of a former UFC fighter added to the UFC roster now. It's safe to say that Bobby Nash didn't have the greatest time of it during his 3 UFC outings as he failed to register a single win. Those 3 losses in the biggest MMA promotion on the planet were coincidentally 3 of the 4 total losses of his career, which could possibly be chalked up to the simple case of stage fright. Since leaving the promotion back in 2017, having been finished up in all 3 bouts, Nash went back to the drawing board and has since notched up 4 consecutive wins, which have put him on the radar of the UFC's main competitor, Bellator, who have recently snapped him up. The multi-fight deal could possibly be seen as his last real shot at the big leagues, and he is expected to make his debut early next year. Nashty, as he is known, has most recently been turning out for Michigan-based promotion, XFC, after making 1 appearance for WXC immediately after being cut by Dana. However, it is more than a year since the welterweight made his last appearance in any octagon, so it will be interesting to see how long it takes him to get back into the groove. Do you think this is a good move for both Nash and Bellator? Give us your thoughts below. And finally, Scott Coker has hinted at a return for Eddie Alvarez. As former UFC lightweight champ Eddie Alvarez parted ways with PFL recently, the bigger promotions around the world sat up and took notice. Alvarez himself admitted that there has been plenty of interest in securing his services of late, but has also said he will take his time to thoroughly think over his options. One of those options is thought to be his former home, Bellator, from which he left in such acrimonious circumstances back in 2013. Alvarez has since admitted that the problem was with the promotion's former boss, Jordan Rebney, and not current incumbent Scott Coker, who recently discussed the Underground King on Helwani's The MMA Hour podcast. Admitting to loving how Eddie fights, Coker added, "The building we're going to for Bellator 286 is his fight with Michael Chandler back in the day. It's been a long ride. He's had a great career. I love our roster the way it sits now. We'd be interested in Eddie. We're definitely interested in having a conversation with his manager or agent Lloyd Pearson." Coker then revealed that he would also be talking to Eddie to discuss his future and, if it makes sense for everyone, then maybe we would consider it. Great news! As usual, thanks for stopping by today. And remember to tune in next time when we'll be discussing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a big favor by liking and sharing today's video while subscribing to our channel. Bye guys!